every once in a while.
Back from the dead.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're all invited to go fucking mental on this motherfucking drop. The countdown has just begun. Are you ready? Let's go, 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 go.
So we're back from the dead. We're back from the dead.
Hell yeah.
Back. So we're back from the dead.
Are you ready? Let's go, 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 go. Man from the dead.
We're back from the dead.
Hell yeah.
We're back from the dead. Back from the dead. Back from the dead.
Hello, everybody. What is up? Welcome back to the channel. This is my co-host. Who are you again?
I don't know. Who are you?
Do you know who you are? No idea. Channel
Cherry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's Krystal, Kat, and Shanae. We're going to be doing a podcast this week tonight.
Mm-hmm.
And I was late.
It's alright. You know what?
It was a sad day. You know, today's my dog's anniversary for his death, which was hard. So everyone was patient with me, and then of course it hit me right before the stream was supposed to start. It was pretty good all day, and then it hit me, and I'm like, great. And it's dying. So here we are. You got inspired to do your makeup from an Atlantis palette, right?
I did. Yes.
And then I was sitting there, and I was like, I just kind of feel blue. I'm just going to go with blue. And I was like, wait, we're talking about Atlantis.
That is, yes.
How do we do that? You know what I mean? Haunted Huddle. I forgot we're in a haunted huddle this week.
Mm-hmm.
Does it feel good to be back,
It
ladies?
feels so good.
except we're late. It's fine.
It's alright. You know what? Here.
Sometimes it's gonna happen. So who were either of you into Atlantis, or where did the what happened? Microphone is low. Oh, like that. So who chose this topic? Do you know who chose this topic? Which is on the schedule?
I think it was just on the schedule. Yeah.
Are you guys into Atlantis at all? Like, do you know the whole, like, what's your idea of
enchilada?
Atlantis? Like, what do you know about Atlantis? Just basics.
That it was a very advanced civilization
Mm-hmm.
that,
For its time.
right, and they basically took technology and spent more time with that than preserving their stuff.
Yeah, they
They're
became
preserving their stuff.
greedy. They became greedy,
Yes,
and
that's-
as a result of that, it's claimed that the city
Was flooded.
went into the ocean.
Right. Whoops.
Whoopsie.
I feel like that could happen to any
That's
continent
literally
at
a
this point.
mood. It's true though.
So when I think of Atlantis, I think of mermaids. Right? It's claimed that, like, the people of Atlantis went underwater and then became mermaids, and that's where mermaids are
true.
connected to. There's been several, archaeologists claim they know exactly where Atlantis is.
They even have a map.
Do you think it's accurate?
I think, from my opinion, that it actually could be from a current event or an event that happened, but I don't know if it was specifically Atlantis.
Right.
But
So you think it's like it could be just a continent down there, or
yeah,
like a piece
I
of
think
land?
it could have been a story that actually happened,
Right.
but it's like a bad game of telephone.
Right.
And it kind
Just
of becomes
over
like,
time becomes big. What do you think, Atlantis? Do you think it's real?
Yeah.
You do? Like the mermaid part, or you really? Me too. I wish. I do too. I love the ocean. I feel like if I could have another life, it'd be as a mermaid, seriously, because it's very calming and peaceful, just without the sharks. You know what I mean? I want to live in the reef with Nemo.
Yes.
Okay, so Kat, you were doing some of like research on this, and I was reading through the notes, and I didn't realize that like philosophers had anything to do with this.
Yeah, Plato actually was the one that started it. He started the story of Atlantis, which is kind of how it
Got so
bloomed.
big.
Yeah, he had what are known as dialogues called Timaeus and Critias. And you know, he's a very smart man, and he heard it from his grandfather, and it's claimed that his grandfather, from one of Plato's dialogues, heard it from an Egyptian priest. So this goes back like a long, long time.
Like the story of it, like actually being a civilization, and then basically like they did bad things, and a water god came and like sunk the whole
Pretty much.
continent underwater and killed most people, and others morphed into fish people.
Pretty much.
That's a mood.
It is, really, though. Yeah, it's really interesting, and there are just so many different conspiracies on it, you know, thinking about...
There's also alien conspiracies behind Atlantis.
Yep, yeah, I was just going to say that, too.
And what is that?
Well, you think about, like, anything really advanced right before its time
Right.
can be considered extraterrestrial.
So when you both said advanced, like what do you mean by that?
Like, advanced technology using the resources from the land. So they actually didn't even use, you know, electricity or, like, the telephone poles or anything like that. They used the actual, like, Earth's surface and everything. So they were way beyond the normal brain
Like what it
function
was.
to be able to sustain that big of an area for that long.
Interesting.
So it's very, very interesting. And I think I really find it fascinating because you think of other places like the Mayans, right? And then you have Atlantis, and then you have all of these other places that are really a mystery. You know, the pyramids and
Pyramids,
Egypt,
yep. Which also
you know,
related to possible extraterrestrial.
Yep, gods, goddesses, anything like that. So I find it really fascinating. They have a claim as well. Some people believe that Atlantis was actually on Mars.
Yeah.
So-
So how did it get here then?
No clue. No clue.
They-
Unless
they-
it was wiped off the planet and fell into Earth. But I don't know.
It was like a piece of
It's got shifted.
Yeah, someone just, they made a boo-boo and, like...
I feel like that's a little out there.
Yeah, I do too.
Like,
How does that... Because Mars, I mean...
it would have had to have been like a crater, right? Basically, or like a cosmic like crash, and then it went into the ocean.
Something like
But
that.
how, if it crashed, how would it have stayed whole? Because they claim there's like ideas of civilization down there, like
There
previous
are.
houses or whatever.
Off the coast of Spain, they even found like
Wow.
huge structures underwater, statues that don't really have any connection to like Greek anything. You know what I
Right,
mean?
right.
So it was really like before its time.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So, you guys
Yes.
think this is legit?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying it's not. I just find it like so weird that they find these weird. How do you feel the same about like the Bermuda Triangle? It's not like that's not like a continent,
Yeah,
but they claim it's like a black hole.
I
And
believe.
there's all these
I
ships
believe
and
that.
like planes that go missing, and they also think that could be related to extraterrestrial.
Yeah.
And they say like these ships, like a full ship will disappear, the whole ship.
That's so crazy.
Yeah.
There's none down there, or like, and it's like different times of year where they know not to go or fly through the Bermuda Triangle, because that's when it's almost like there's portals and they open and close and open and close. So I don't know. Personally, I think all of this stuff could exist. I just think it's like one of those topics you could really.
You can go down a dark hole.
Yeah, you
literally.
can.
I also feel like anything that's that advanced or that we really don't know about or like the unknown, I do believe is possible.
Yeah.
Right.
Because we're just not at that level yet.
And
you
I
know?
wonder, because they always talk about how it's so hard for people to find this place. I think it's underwater, but they've checked and it's like nowhere.
Right.
What if it's more of like a different dimension kind of thing? Scenario.
Right.
That's in the water.
Right.
Different dimensions, different like portals and stuff in the water. Just like that.
I mean, it could be. It could be.
Ooh, that's interesting.
It's so hard though, like I guess personally for me to separate like real from fiction with Atlantis, because we see things like The Little Mermaid, which is supposed to take place in Atlantis,
Right.
like all these things. So in your mind, it's almost like society has trained you to think it's not real. And then when you see pictures like that or like explorers that find things, you're kind of like, I'm skeptical about it.
Yeah.
Is it legit?
Yep.
You know?
So I have here, I'm reading some notes on my phone, so I'm looking down. It says here, the biggest question that boggles the minds of all scientists is where Atlantis is.
Right.
The narration suggests, this is from Plato's work, that the city is believed to have sunk into the sea after an earthquake or tsunami. According to him, the so-called Atlantis was a large island located near the rock of Gibraltar.
What is that?
Good question. Look that up. And consisted of a Poseidon temple and concentric walls and canals. Plato added that the city under the sea should have been somewhere in the Atlantic Ocean. However, no technology so far has revealed any such city on the ocean bed. I guess what's really interesting, and I actually tried to find some of Plato's work, but the translations are really funky, so it was really kind of hard to delineate what he was saying.
Right.
But he was like a long dialogue. Like, he went into some pretty extensive detail based off of what his grandfather told him. And
So
it
grandfather would be 2 generations above him. And so they're saying it was destroyed by a volcanic eruption, possibly, in 1600 BC.
which is pretty incredible to me.
So it's basically, for all eternity that we know itself, it's been completely sunk.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of that disaster that happened when the volcano erupted and it kind of froze everybody in time. Remember they were like
Pompeii or
Pompeii?
Pompeii,
Yeah.
however.
Okay, so that was it. They're also claiming, some scientists are saying, based off of Plato's description on things, that they are actually talking about the depiction of Pompeii.
Okay. So
Because
they
it
think
was a
it's similar.
civilization type of thing. But again, it's like, was it? Or was it
Right.
very similar? You know what I
Right.
mean? Or was it just a bad game of
Well,
telephone?
yeah, the volcanic ash basically turned them into, just
It
killed them
literally
instantly.
froze them in place,
And
though.
they
And they're
turned into
still
stone.
there.
Yeah, I know. It's really gross. It's sad.
It's freaky.
There was
freaks
one,
me out.
I don't know if I should be talking about this.
What?
I look at Chanel. I don't know if Chanel can save me. There was one, you know what that she's talking about, right? Like this, it was a city that like a volcanic eruption happened, and at the time they would use oracles or psychics to give them advice, and an oracle had come in and told them like, there's going to be an eruption, like you need to like evacuate the city, and they were like, no, we're not going to do it. And the volcano went off, and the ash just killed everyone instantly. But there's, so I turned them into stone, like statue stone. They're still there. there's one guy they think was either in the middle of like having booty, like sex, or like doing his own thing, and he's frozen in that like.
Oh gosh!
Yeah, I've seen the
hilarious.
statue, and I'm like, that's the first thing I think of because that was like really viral for a while. It's kind of sad. The dude was like doing his business,
Wow.
but you know, it also tells you at the time they didn't have emergency alerts on their phones.
Yep. You just kinda had to
Or
go with it.
yeah, like there weren't, you know, tornado sirens outside. So we're really lucky to be in like the era that we're in. Because what if there wasn't a warning?
That's insane to me.
That freaks me out.
I found also a quote from Plato describing what Atlantis was. So he said, quote, "For the ocean there was at the time, in front of the mouth, which you Greeks call, as you say, the Pillars of Hercules. There lay an island which was larger than Libya and Asia together, and it was possible for travelers at that time to cross from it to the other islands, and from the islands to the whole of the continent over against them, which encompasses that veritable ocean." So it sounds like, you know how it's weird how he's talking? You know what I mean? Like, that's why it's really hard to kind of delineate what he's saying.
Right.
But it's that extensive in detail. And I guess that there's a part of me that's like, I don't know. But then the other half of me is like, he really had to go into some extensive detail about location, what it looked like, where specifically it was. They even have maps from Plato's time where explorers were looking for it. You know what I mean? So maybe it is just one of those things that we're not meant to know that really did happen.
Well, and I also feel like, you know, like using the volcanic example, right, where like the city like was killed with ash and then the people were frozen as statues. When you're talking about a time in Plato where he's saying stuff like, right, by quote, I'm looking at one of your little notes. It says, "Divine punishment was the island and the earthquakes and floods, and it sunk into the muddy sea." Of course, at that time, it would be easier to say, "An angry god came up out of the water and got mad and sunk the entire continent," versus being like, actually, dude, what happened? There was a tsunami.
Right.
And it washed the whole island into the water, which that still happens.
True.
Right? Like to other places, and we're facing global warming and all these issues that are happening. And back then, there may not have been massive extinctions like that. So when something did happen, of course, what they're going to do is blame it on a god. Be like, oh, the god sunk. Because they were too, you know, they were too smart for their own good. And because they wouldn't just be satisfied with the time we're living in, the god said, "We shall put you into the sea." That's a little, like, dramatic. Also sounds like something Plato would say, though.
Yeah.
Because and I love Plato. Like, he's really good at philosophy
He's
and all that.
brilliant, yeah.
But, geez, it's a little bit like...
I guess the other half of it, if you were trying to think of it from, like, not so much a skeptic point of view, but I guess so,
Right.
is you think about how the story is structured. It talks about this really beautiful, lavish city, you know, lots of people, nobody had any worries about anything, everything was provided for them,
Right.
and that was kind of taken advantage of. So it's almost like, was this story predating, you know, let's say the Bible, right? With stories of what you should and shouldn't be doing to try to scare people into being more grateful.
Or scare people out of not living on an island. Right? Because you're, like, thinking island life is, like, you know, for example, Hawaii. Remember Dwight when we were talking to him? He was like, actually, it's not as glamorous as you think it is. It's got a lot of struggles. So maybe people were already afraid to do it, but then they wanted the luxury of, like, living on an island. But then they hear, oh, wait, you don't want to go to the island. Did you hear about Atlantis, man? Last week it went in the ocean.
Yeah.
So it's almost, maybe it was also part of, like, a society's fear of control, too, in a way.
Didn't want anyone
By
to branch
saying
out on their own.
Poseidon sunk the whole ocean, or, you know, sunk it into.
And if he's talking about Greek as well, I think people are really big into the gods and goddesses, right? Really afraid of, you know, Zeus and all that stuff.
Right.
So
no, very true. That
don't
was
be
their
greedy.
belief system.
Exactly. So don't be greedy, or Zeus or one of our gods is going to come and, you know, explode or, you know, burn up the whole city.
Right.
So it's a very different perspective.
Now, to me,
on
that
it.
sounds pretty accurate, personally.
Yes. But
Because at the time, you don't have social media, you don't have TVs, you don't have anything. All you have is the community and the society that you're living in. So I feel like religion would have to be your only choice of belief. Because what else are you going to put yourself into? There's really no exposure to the outside world. Most people may not have even known how big the world actually was. Maybe people even thought flat earth things because there wasn't science to back anything up. They didn't have satellites or planes to be flying above, you know, the United States / world.
True.
And so maybe they were like, oh, it fell off the edge, man.
Yeah.
the edge of
Right.
the earth, they just went right off of it.
They flew off,
They're literally
literally.
gone because you pissed off the gods. Okay, don't be greedy.
Yeah,
don't move.
it's one of those weird things because that would really make it more believable, right, to us, to maybe where our mindset is, and for having an understanding of maybe these scenarios.
Right.
But then, yeah, you think of the other side of it, which is like the 5% of everything that he wrote in here is so freaking specific.
Right.
As far as coordinates go, exactly where it is, like, you know, the map.
Well, I
So
don't
it's like-
question a lot of Plato anyway, because like we even study him like when I was doing my communication major. You like philosophy, you study it in philosophy, you study it in humanitarianism. I mean, there's so many areas, psychology, like literally, and so much of our belief systems still today are based off of, even like communication is based off of like Plato, Socrates, all that stuff. So how could we not trust the things he said about Atlantis? Because we still use all of his other stuff every single day, like
True.
even in just language.
That's very true. I was just reading this note too as you were talking. So, you know how Plato heard it from his grandfather.
Right.
And his grandfather heard it from an Egyptian, I can't remember, his soldier or something.
Right.
Somebody from Egypt, right? Just read in the beginning part of the notes that I found. There's a section here, it says, let's see, that Atlantis was protected by the god Poseidon, who made his son Atlas king and namesake of the island and the ocean that surrounded it. As the Atlanteans grew powerful, their ethics declined. Their armies eventually conquered Africa as far as Egypt and Europe as far as a place in Italy. I'm not even going to try to pronounce that name. So it makes you wonder if armies, if this did exist, right, and Atlanteans did conquer these places and they went in as far as Egypt, and then the grandfather heard this from somebody from Egypt. Nothing could really be made up that extensively.
No.
You know what I mean? So it's also that perspective.
Well, and you
of,
also have to
wow.
think of it like, okay, so you have, what are we saying, Plato's grandfather, right? Heard this from someone in Egypt. That today's day and age, it's like, oh yeah, took a plane. What would they have had to do to meet someone from Egypt back in the day?
True.
In Greece. That was weird. The light
The
went out.
whole light just went out.
That's creepy. But think about it though, it would have been by horse, right? Or walking.
Or exploring,
Or-
adventuring.
Right? I mean, literally. So, I mean, it does make sense where it's like, wow, where did he get this information? He couldn't have just totally pulled it out of his you-know-what.
Yeah, no, it's true. So there's another legend here about Atlantis, and it's called the Tale of God's Love. So it says, legend says that the Atlantis city was built by Poseidon, the god of the sea, of storms and earthquakes, when he fell in love with a mortal woman. He made this city on top of a hill in an isolated island in the sea to protect her and named it Atlantis.
Okay.
According to the story, Poseidon walked through the world in an effort to find the biggest island until he reached the biggest of them all. Atlantis, and...
AKA
yeah,
Jason Momoa.
exactly.
Hey, I love
He
that.
is very...
Chanel loves Jason
Attractive.
Momoa.
He found it to be inhabited by people who were more beautiful and intelligent than the rest of the world. It was then he fell in love with the girl that he met when he finds her on this island.
Okay.
So it already like existed
Right.
before that time as well. So there's very interesting stories about this whole...
Now, really quickly, I was looking through like random news articles earlier. That's what I was trying to print before the stream started. They're saying it's either by Britain or by Spain, which I'm assuming it's pretty much the same area.
Published on the 16th.
Yeah, this was
of
pretty
this year.
soon. I was gonna see if there was an actual map here that
That's
we could
weird
share.
that we're talking about this and that was just posted. That's
Yeah.
weird.
Okay, here I'm gonna put this up here. Okay. So basically, they're saying this like weird, oddly shaped picture that they found on satellite is where they're finding all of these, what you said is architecture underwater, and
Like buildings.
and it's so old. Like we're talking like pre-Greek times, which would make sense once again with Plato. What do you think, Chanel?
Honestly, I think there probably is something, like the architecture-wise, you know, because that's, I mean,
It's amazing the scans that we have with all of our technology. You know
Wow.
what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But look, you can literally see in this circle that it's like
Right
an
there.
image of like an actual island that's just under the ground.
Yeah.
From
Or
this
underwater.
island, you could pass to yet more islands before ending up in the opposite continents that surround the Atlantic Ocean. Like, that's how extensive he was.
Right.
Literally. With this in mind, geologically speaking, wow,
A
that's
rock
crazy.
fall. So anyway, I
Wow.
just thought it was really cool.
Especially if you're finding this structures like that in the middle of the ocean.
Right.
Like, literally, there's no land around. There's no way it could have just been swept under and, like, you all of a sudden you have a statue in the middle of the ocean, you know?
Right.
So, begs to question,
Where is... I thought I had picked up a lot more articles than this, but that's okay. Here we go. There's another one. I don't know. There's a lot of really current articles on this. And I'm assuming it's because people are looking for it. Well, and also, have you guys
Wow.
heard the whole, there's treasure wherever you find Atlantis, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
I don't really know about that.
the treasure is probably just the earth itself.
Yeah, I would
honestly,
say.
think
Or
about
the,
it.
the architecture, sculptures, whatever is down there.
Beautiful.
It is amazing how, however it was built with stone or whatever, has lasted this many years. But yeah, there's actual articles on it. And they're
wow.
claiming there's some random rocks that are how like people on boat will find where it's located at exactly. Like there are some pieces that are still sticking up because this was such a mystery for so long. But it does make you wonder, why do you think like our news and media outlets aren't talking about this more?
About Atlantis?
Yeah, like do you think they just look at it like kind of a myth too?
I think
Or do you
so.
think they don't want to talk? Do you think it's like hush hush? You
I
do?
think it's hush hush.
Is it kind of like aliens and like everything else?
Yeah,
It
because
could
there's
be.
a lot that goes on in the ocean. There's a lot of the ocean we don't know about. So there could be so many discoveries that we could find that could send like people into a panic.
Right.
You know.
It could.
Well, Tom
it's-
DeLonge did that with his alien documentary
Hey,
too.
Tom.
Hey, Tom DeLonge.
So there's another section here that talks about the extraterrestrial connection.
Oh, yeah,
if
yeah.
you don't mind touch
No,
on
I
that
would-
for
I
a
do wanna
second.
do- yeah.
Sure. So, okay, so it says right here, stories also claim that the original inhabitants of the lost city of Atlantis are believed to be of extraterrestrial origin, who reached there about 50,000 years ago from
Okay.
the Lyrian star system.
The Lyrians.
Yeah.
Do you know about them? Well, what?
So
what?
they are. So there's a theory that there are a bunch of different extraterrestrial species. One of them is the Lyrians or the Lyrians. I'm not really sure.
Are
which
these like
one it is.
lizard people?
No, they're more. I think these are the ones that are also like
Morphic or?
more of what we look like
Okay.
than anything else. But there are like distinct features that are different
Okay.
or like more enhanced, I guess. But
Are they the fish people?
I don't- that's a good question. I'll have to look up pictures.
Because I've never heard of this before, so this is new.
Really?
Keep going though, Kat.
Okay, so it says, despite being much taller and fairer than today's average human being, the average lifespan of these people is believed to have been 800 years, making them really robust and strong prototype of existent human race then.
Okay,
the-
so yeah.
Oh yeah, you go, girl.
Sorry, go
It's
ahead.
okay.
Go,
You did
keep
find 'em?
talking. I'm gonna find like a better
Okay.
picture.
So it also goes into the powers of the Atlanteans,
Which
as,
is the being
like the people of Atlantis.
okay. Like this is why they were smarter than normal people, and it wasn't modern. They were
Totally
beyond
different,
that.
like race.
Okay.
Yeah. As some claim that the lost city of Atlantis was on Mars or was just a colony of an alien civilization, the inhabitants of the Atlantis city believed to have the possessors of exceptional powers such as the ability to control weather, modify
Ooh,
volcanic eruptions, and modify volcanic eruptions. Some accounts also mention about their possession of some sort of device
So they were almost like magic.
to an extent,
To an
kind of like
extent.
godly.
They were so, which is why they may have been quote punished
True.
and told like you're abusing your power, so we're
You need to
sinking
go
your
here.
ship.
Mhm.
Okay,
Yep.
interesting.
So this is a depiction, I guess, that of.
You might have to tilt it down. Once. I mean, so they look like you and I. So, but it's a little alien, like a little.
It's like a little elfish.
elfy,
like,
yeah,
mhm.
like
But
Lord of the
then
Rings
there's
style.
also
Oh, hey.
white Lyrians that are like. There's
See,
an
I've seen
obvious-
this, and to me, it looks like fish-like people or like reptilian, and that's why I had mentioned that to begin with. Doesn't it look like that'd be someone that lives underwater?
Yeah.
Looks like someone out of World of Warcraft, actually. To me.
It does.
doesn't it?
I love it though.
Yeah. Cat's like, I'd like to meet one, please.
Yes, I do. So they also say some accounts also mention about their possession of some sort of device that allowed them to channel energy from time and space. Even though the myth says that the inhabitants of the Atlantic City were superior beings, there are some of the opinions that it is just a mythical representation of a barbaric fashion of life.
In other words, there's going to be opinions like there is now.
Mm-hmm.
So people thought they were slightly barbaric, in other words. So it
True.
just depends on the society and who you're talking about specifically.
So here's a, you were talking about the Bermuda Triangle earlier.
Yes.
Actually, it's in this one here.
Okay.
So it's this section of the notes called the Captivation Palace. So the new home built by Poseidon for his love in the city of Atlantis was
Right.
surrounded by rings of water and land.
Okay.
The 5 rings of water were connected to the land with the help of 5 tunnels. There were a huge canal connected to the outer rings of water to the ocean. The tunnels were able to accommodate ships, and every route to the city was guarded by gates and towers. Moreover, the wall that surrounded the rings was built using red, white, and black rock and was decorated with precious metals. So,
So
first off, I
anyways,
feel
they
like
had
that would
good
be a
taste
good way.
too. If you're talking
That
about
too.
your gates have precious metals, we're talking about stone, like possibly gold, crystals, right? Which I'm assuming they're saying. What does it say? The walls were with precious metals, so they may have looked real snooty to the outside world.
Yeah.
Can you imagine walking in, not just a home, but like a society where their walls are covered in gold and crystal? You'd be like, well, these people are like really full of
Over the
themselves.
top.
True.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. So, but then instead of getting to know them, I'm sure back at the time, people would hear these stories, and then they'd be like, you just don't want to go to Atlantis. Like, those people are just like snooty rich people, and like they have their heads stuck in the sand.
It's true.
Right?
I have a theory though.
Okay.
With the 5, so you have the 5 rings of water, right?
Yeah, that's
We're
weird.
connected
What is-
around it, okay?
So it's almost magical. It's like a magical city even before it sunk.
Right. So you think about it though, and you think about like energy, right? If they harness some sort of energy to be able to live off of those natural substances without technology, what if Atlantis sank with that energy in those 5 rings of water, and Atlantis is actually the Bermuda Triangle?
Could be, but it's a different area.
It is a different area.
Yeah.
But it's
That's
people
why
are
I
looking
said it
everywhere.
could be like the Bermuda Triangle.
True.
Because people have claimed, I don't know, once again, it's so hard because I've read so many, I'm obsessed with Bermuda Triangle. I don't want to go, but I'll read about
But
it.
I'm obsessed with it.
But there's been people that have claimed they've like teleported out and then teleported back in.
Whoa.
And they've claimed that it literally like takes you to a different world. And there's been psychics I've read that like have talked about like it's the same thing, like it literally teleports you to a different world, which is why you can't find the ships or the planes.
So what if it's still in existence?
What if it
But it's
is?
using the portal of the Bermuda Triangle
Exactly.
to go to it.
I agree.
No, with that.
Or and once again, you could even start getting in depth, like deeper about it. Like what if there's
gosh.
ley lines involved?
Oh my gosh.
You know what I
Yep.
mean? Like it could
Mhm.
literally
There's
keep
so
going.
much.
Go ahead, Chanel.
I was just gonna say that reminds me of the scene in I think it was Wonder Woman, right? Of the guy when he was flying the plane and he flew it into the like dome thing that was separating like the humans world from I don't remember what Wonder Woman is.
I didn't watch Wonder Woman. I saw Captain America.
Oh, you didn't?
Well,
No, I'm horrible.
somebody will know what I'm saying.
Someone will know.
That
I mean, Captain America was kind of like that. She was like teleporting like light, faster than light speed, back and forth to different like planes. So it could be the same
When you
thing,
think about Doctor Strange,
right?
same thing.
Doctor
with
Strange
his
is
rings,
completely
he
yep.
messes
Right.
with time.
He can create his own.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe someone was like Doctor Strange on Atlantis, and they like pissed a god off, and the god was like, sink it.
Oh no! Now we're talking about Bermuda Triangle. I think it exists now.
I still think that could exist. I think it's legit. I do. There's too many ships that go missing. It's still to this day.
Now, what if I'm going it down an even darker hole.
Let's
I don't
do
know.
it.
This is horrible.
Let's do rabbit.
So,
I love rabbit holes. Don't you?
what if...
We finally trained Kat to do rabbit holes.
Oh, it's so horrible. Now I'm stuck. I'm stuck in the rabbit hole and the Bermuda Triangle. It's fine. So, what if civilization couldn't handle the gift that was given them, right? Let's say these abilities, these powers
like
to
the
live in this land.
Atlanteans, right?
What if that was like a test
Right.
from whatever higher being or god or whatever, and because they failed, they hid the civilization underwater until civilization could handle those resources again?
That's weird you say that because I was thinking the same thing.
Really?
I thought to myself, which I wasn't going to tell you, so I'm glad you were the crazy one and brought it first. I was thinking if they were so far ahead of like their time, let's play the god card. I don't know. Let's just jump into it. What if a god or the god or whatever was like, ooh, we're going too fast. Like the way this particular planet needs to go, these people accidentally got too far ahead of me, and it's gonna mess up the time and space thing. So we have to just get rid of these real quick, and then okay, everybody's fine.
Yep.
Because think about it, it could overlap, and like I feel like what were we watching the other day where it was like Powder?
Yes.
You know how we watched the movie Powder? If you haven't seen it, please go watch it.
It's so good.
You know
So
how like
good.
the scientist was like, I think that like this is where civilization's going, is like people could use like 99% of their brains and they will be like you. Do you remember that? What if that was what was happening? Because they claim like we only use like a very small percentage of our brain every day, and it sounds like these people were way ahead of it. What if they were getting so far part of society that some sort of weird natural disaster did occur, because it was like, wait a minute, they're going to screw up this whole enchilada.
Right.
Like, the whole world still needs to be developed, and you're way too far ahead for what you can succeed at this time. That's what I think would make
Well,
sense.
and you think about it, too, like, if we had those resources now, we would totally abuse it.
Right.
Totally abuse it in the wrong
Oh,
reasons.
completely.
So, it being buried under there is probably for the safety of everybody,
Right.
honestly, because if that's not, we'd go insane. We
So
wouldn't be able to
tying
handle it.
into the mermaid theme, let's just do that, because I love mermaid stuff, obviously. So there's two things they've said when I was reading about Atlantis, because I've studied this for years. Either one side, when Atlantis sunk, the mermaids had a place to live. They were already there. Or Atlantis sinks with the people, most people die, a few that do thrive become mermaids. Whichever way you think about it, there's still freaking mermaids down there. Okay,
Yeah.
right? Have you ever watched the conspiracy videos, YouTube, whatever? You can. I mean, I've even seen them on like Ridiculousness, where they've claimed to have caught like mermaid figures on tape. Have you seen them? I'm gonna be real. There's a few I think that are actually really compelling. I don't know how you guys feel.
I agree.
I don't like believe the ones where like, oh, a dead mermaid rolled up onto the ocean side. It's like, no, stop.
I
Like,
honestly think that a lot of the fantasy stuff that are in movies and cartoons and Disney and all
video
of that
games,
are real.
right?
It's just that the reason that humanity can't like get past the thought of like, oh, it's all fake, is because we've been conditioned
Right.
to
Society.
think it's fake. But also, if you were to see a mermaid, you would also be freaked out.
That's
about
just
it.
like the aliens, though. That's why they're trying to suffer the alien. Like, they just now, the government's saying alien UFO videos exist from our government. They've been released, but that's all we can say. We can't.
Right.
It's only an unidentified flying object. It's not an alien per se.
right.
Yeah.
But I do agree with that statement. I think that people like us that are obviously into these like conspiracies and like paranormal, whatever it is, cryptozoology, we probably could handle it. I don't think anything would shock me at this point,
No.
because of the things I've seen just on like the ghost side, like being very realistic, saying like that realm exists, 100% exists. And if you're a skeptic, it's just because you haven't had an experience yet.
True.
You know, but with that being said, from what we've experienced just paranormal wise, absolutely I think any of this stuff could exist. But 100% I also believe that all civilizations are trying to hush it.
Yep.
Because they're afraid of the impact that it'll make on us, because they've trained us in society, in our
Yeah,
mind, to
conditioned
just
us.
believe in one thing. And if something comes in that's like the opposite, that means they've been lying to us. They don't want us to think that they've been wrong.
And
this
that's
whole
the
time.
government.
It is.
You know, them
But
hiding
it's not
information.
just the United States. It's the
It's
whole
everywhere.
world. Yeah, it is.
And that was a really good word you used, Chanel, about being conditioned or being told other things.
Right.
Is you know, we are being conditioned to not use that third eye, that expand those horizons. You know, I mean, think about even correlating it with witchcraft. You know, the Salem witch trials. Those people, those women.
Well, that's all fear.
Right,
It's
all fear-based. You know, they wanted to live an open life and do what they wanted without being confined to society's rules. And honestly, like, I don't see anything wrong with that, you know, but it's seen as a fearful thing because it's beyond what we've been conditioned to think. Exactly. Everybody would panic. Everybody would panic.
Well, and that's, I think, why I liked the Tom DeLonge documentary that we watched. We need to finish that, by the way. Maybe we'll do that for booze and reviews down the road.
Ooh.
But he was literally using people that were, like, from the government, like, ex-government employees that, like, know aliens exist. And it's so, like, refreshing to find somebody that does a documentary. Like, I would love someone to come out with an Atlantis documentary.
Oh my gosh.
And be able to lay out the freaking facts.
We should do it.
Rather than just like, oh, they said this and maybe this. No, like, somebody needs to do the research and, like,
Hey,
the
what's
facts.
up, Josh Gates? How you doing?
Really, though?
I'm going on a trip.
Josh Gates, I'm just kidding.
I would never do the things he does, though.
No.
Like, he
weird.
goes underwater
Listen, if Josh
and
Gates
scuba
is
dives.
gonna
It's some
go
weird.
try to see if Atlantis is real, I am more than willing to go.
I'm not a
Like,
water person. You know what I'm saying?
Oh my god.
love
I
Oh,
drowned in
know.
my past life, and it's just not gonna.
Here.
I did. I freaking, unless you don't know this channel, hi, welcome to Ghost Girl Diaries. I'm Krystal, the lead host, and I drowned in a past life. And because of that, I've
Hello,
never been on a
Krystal.
boat, and I've never been on a ship, and I don't really think I will. And if I do, I'm gonna bring my own life jacket
3 of them.
and my own
Wear 'em
little
as
blow-up
pants.
boat, and I'm just gonna sit
I'm
in
just
there.
gonna sit there and bob.
I'm gonna carry it with me all the time.
Bring your
if something
floaty.
happens. Get those like little kid floaties.
A mermaid
on.
floaty, just like.
But because of that, I don't think that's why. Like, Josh is gone. Didn't he like scuba in, or he was on a boat in like Lake Loch Ness?
Nope, that's not happened. Nope.
You?
Yeah, I ain't playing. I ain't playing with that.
I'm the dumb girl that would get eaten first. I'm the dumb blonde that would die first.
You're not done, Krystal.
In that case, I would. I would scream and with my Addisons, and
Oh my
I would
God.
lose all consciousness.
Jesus, bro, you just pass out in the
Literally
water
pass out in the
with your
water.
pink floaties.
Guys drive by and
Krystal.
gotta pick up Krystal. She lost all of her adrenaline.
Oh
It's
my
gone.
gosh.
Oh my gosh. Okay, let's keep going.
I'm trying to find more notes.
Okay.
What
What else, Shanae? What do you think? Do you think that the mermaids are the people previously, or do you think that they're like, oh, cool, let's just live here?
I think, honestly,
Chanel gets into like she likes the
I
dark.
was going to talk about two after.
The
I
dark.
think that mermaids probably existed before Atlantis,
Okay.
like pre-Atlantis, and then I think this is gonna sound really weird,
No,
but I
like,
think that
no,
there's
let's do it.
different like species of mermaid. Oh, that makes sense.
That's a good. I never thought about that.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Like
You know, because like
like
there's-
Native Americans and
Right.
like Kat's part Mexican American, right? Like you're
Right.
Italian, like that, like kind
Yeah,
of. That makes
yeah.
sense.
So, because we talk about different species of extraterrestrials, different species of
That
like,
makes
Earth,
sense.
like backgrounds of humans.
See, I've never thought about that, but that totally makes sense. And I think that they should, like, everyone's like, oh, we only get, like, the tail, you know, on the video. Why do they always just get the tail swimming away? Because they probably talk a lot, like humans talk a lot. And they're like, stay away from the humans, okay? Those people are
They're
cray
smart.
cray.
Yeah.
Pretty much,
Well, and
yeah.
then there's even like the good and bad. You know, a lot of
Right.
really
That's
old
true.
writings of mermaids where they would lure men and eat them, literally. So
Yeah.
they were really like violent. But
Can
then
I just say that that's a mood?
that is a really mood. But then there's the other half where it's like Ariel from The Little Mermaid, Disney. So that makes sense if there was a whole civilization in there. And there were different races
Right.
involved in that. Everybody would have
that's
their
cool,
own
though.
personality. That's really
Interesting.
cool to know.
That's a really good topic, because
Yeah.
I never would have thought about that, but it makes totally sense. Or total sense, sorry, I'm not talking
Yeah.
right.
In what was the place that we went to? They actually
Where?
have a whole Atlantis thing where the fish tank is.
Where are we?
When we
Vegas?
went to go, yeah. Remember when we
Mermaid
went?
The Mermaid Bar? Oh.
I think it was in. Was it in the Venetian? When we went to was it Cheesecake Factory?
That was.
And there was
Caesar's
like
Palace.
this. Caesar's Palace, and
Yeah.
there was a huge
Oh,
thing of
yes.
the
That,
Atlantis.
oh my gosh, I forgot that
and
was there.
that was actually what I'm about to talk about now.
We'll have to take Chanel down there to
we
see
should,
that.
we should record it. Can
Except
you
we
record it?
sat there's okay, so inside of Caesar's
It was really
Palace.
loud.
sitting behind it was hot. Remember the fire?
Yeah.
We were like,
There
our
was
eyebrows
actual
were gone.
flames. There was actual flames
my eyebrows. They were
inside the
singed.
building.
Inside of Caesar's Palace, which is really cool. There's a really cool Vanderbilt. Is that her bar?
Yeah.
Vanderbilt Garden Bar. Lisa Vanderbilt. Vanderpump. That's right. That place is cool. If you ever go, if you come to Vegas, go to the Garden Bar. Vanderpump Garden Bar is beautiful. It's very witchy. But there's a ton of stores in there. Lush is in there and a bunch of stuff. So I went with Kat in there and we ate at the Cheesecake Factory. They were busy that night, so they could only seat us outside in their like little patio area. And in front of that is where they have this like pre-made Atlantis thing, and they're showing. Was it Poseidon? Was that who?
It was
one
Poseidon
of them?
and his two sons.
Daughter and son.
Daughter and the son.
Yep. And then they're fighting over like who he's gonna give the crown to, and they literally have like the show will start. Isn't it like 15 to the hour or something like that? And we're sitting. We'd already watched it once. I've seen it before, but we watched it up front. Then we sat behind it, and they had like fire come up, and we were like.
Yeah, and the columns, like, and
but
everything.
It's like it's like a water show.
And
There's
Poseidon
like
was the
splashes.
one that ended it because they were being greedy.
Right.
Yeah, and then there's...
Which is also obviously in relation to, like, Poseidon was like, okay, you're being greedy because you guys know things that you shouldn't know, so I'm just going to sink the whole thing. So he kind of took that ideology and ran with it with the show, which was interesting. So yeah, you'll have to go see that with us.
True. Very true. There was a fable that talks about that. And it's claimed that Poseidon and his wife had 5 pairs of twin sons, and the eldest was named Atlas. And the 10 sons inherited the great city, and the first child, right, Atlas, became the first ruler of Atlantis. However, it's believed they also built a huge temple for their father with a giant statue of Poseidon riding the chariot carried by winged horses. The statue is completely built in gold and placed in a temple with its spiral roof so high up that the clouds drifted through the spirals of the temple.
Right.
So I've heard some theories on that it's actually encased inside of a rock. And I think it looked like that rock formation that you had in that article.
Really?
Because it rose above the water.
Okay.
Like, it sunk, and you could still see it above the water after it sank.
Because it was so large.
So you think about, like, if a rock somehow managed to form over it, you know what I mean?
Well,
Maybe that would be... What?
Calcify.
Yeah.
Right? Couldn't it calcify? Okay.
Yep.
So you think it was rich? Do you think it was rich? Clearly, if they're claiming that there were, like, walls built of crystal and gold.
Yeah. They probably had their own form of currency, too, and, you know, everything around them, nature and everything else was really highly regarded, you know, and used, obviously, to survive, so it probably had a higher price than what it would here.
Right.
Which is unfortunate, but...
That's interesting, though. Chanel, anything you want to add to that? Beautiful architectures. So where do you think the black and red stone came from, though? They claimed it was black and red stone at one time, right?
Could have stained it with just, like, berries.
Or berry, too. Or
clay.
Tourmaline.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Or,
Yeah.
I mean, what's the other one?
Red rubies, maybe?
Rubies or red carnelian.
Yeah.
And what's the other black one that we use for negative energy?
Tourmalines?
Obsidian.
Obsidian.
Obsidian, onyx, yep.
Onyx, yep, that too could have happened. Rare metals, interesting brass crystals.
They talked about that in the documentary about Atlantis, the Mermaid Island. Oh, wow. That's interesting.
See, I'm skeptical when it comes to documentaries about this. Because I just don't trust what everybody always says and, like, the information they're bringing forward. You know what I mean?
True.
How much of it is actually
Do you agree? I mean,
real, like it,
right.
like actual proven to be real, not just somebody else's. Like, I think this, you know, because that's.
There was actually, in the Bible, there is a story that was similar to Atlantis, but it was God ruining, like, destroying the land. The flood. Well, yeah, there was actually an earthquake, and the whole place literally exploded. So it's really just strange how there are very similar stories that are kind of transformed into whatever, you know, whatever time you're in.
Depending on what you've heard about it, what your belief system is, because couldn't that affect it too? Like, I mean, we believe in the universe per se, but not necessarily gods, like the old gods and goddesses or whatever. So I'm not sure. I personally can't believe that like a god came and like wiped it out.
Right.
I do think a natural disaster could have occurred, and they didn't see it coming. Was this considered an actual island originally? Do you know?
Yes.
Or was it like attached to a piece of land that like broke off?
It was literally an island.
Okay.
Like, it's claimed that Poseidon literally found an island, the biggest island possible.
Oh, Larry said volcanic rock is black and red.
Oh my gosh.
That's
yeah.
that's an easy one. That makes a lot of sense.
Wow. Oh, that's
Can
cool.
you build with that though, I wonder? I mean, I'm sure you
With
can
what?
somehow, like with lava rock.
Oh my god.
Of course.
Can you? Okay, cool. That's interesting.
Especially if you get it hot.
Wow.
like
Okay, I didn't even think
liquidates.
about that.
Yeah. Wow. That's crazy.
That's a good point. Thanks, Larry, for that one.
Now, do you think it's also possible that some people didn't, like, survived and went to land and created their own civilization? Like, you think about the Egyptians and the pyramids, or the Mayans.
Well, once again, you go back to like what we were just discussing, which is if these people did exist, could they have gone to hide out, right? Or if they were as smart as people said they were, do they know if they really died?
Yeah. I would assume that
Because,
they
like,
would've-
right here, it says in your notes, despite being much taller and fairer than their average human being, these people were believed to have been up to 800 years old.
you see that text
So now,
a lot,
if
too.
that is the case, I don't really believe they died.
No. I would believe some of them got to land and they lived this long life and made their own civilizations, and people thought that they were aliens or extraterrestrial because of their knowledge. And what if they're still
Or
alive today? Who
Even think
knows?
about that, like you were talking about comparing like video games and like movies that we watch and all this stuff, right? Let's put that in our mind for a minute. If these people are still around today, have they been able to influence our society as for what they are? Because there are places in video games, which is partially why I do play World of Warcraft, that I feel very familiar with.
Really?
Yeah. And I'm not saying I live in the video game, okay? I'm saying, like, I feel like that place existed somewhere else. And I've been there, you know what I mean? And probably not this planet, obviously. But it does make you wonder where, or if they did, like, mate with regular people, did that, and they survived, theory-wise, if we're going down, like, a dark hole. Were they able to create us as humans down the line, and then we were able to be more smart and intelligent? You know what I mean? Like, you could really start going with this. Or you could even take the theory of, like, Game of Thrones. You're more familiar with the storyline than I am, because I only watched the last few seasons. It's the queen was, like, the last one of existence, right? Where she came from.
Daenerys, yeah.
So was there one that survived and then went to another colony? I mean, think about that. Where did these
That's what I'm
stories come
thinking.
from? They have to come from somewhere. Not
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, an author wrote it, but still, how did that author come up with these ideas? Like, I just feel like everything could have originated from somewhere. And think about Daenerys. She's blonde and very pale, and what they're
Oh my
saying,
gosh, yep, the same description.
not quite the same description as like a normal human, right?
She wore a lot of blues, though. Do you notice that?
That's very true too. And her eyes were like real light, almost bright blue. Why was she cast that way? Or why was the entire colony before they died, and she was the only one survived, that were all like blonde, pale skin, fair eyes?
True.
Were those the Atlanteans in a different sort of?
Oh my god, form.
No, but you know what I mean? Like, that's where my brain goes when you start thinking about, like, conspiracy theories. And obviously, they have found this city underwater. It is there. Like, they have maps of it. Is there actual photos? Let me look real quick.
There is a photo I think I put on the
Like, has someone
Instagram.
taken, like, an underwater camera? You know what I mean? Like...
There are, actually.
Atlantis. Oops, I didn't spell that right. Let me do real Atlantis, because otherwise...
You can find some funky pictures up in there.
Okay, so there are some images here. I
Oh,
mean, there's
wow,
fish,
yep.
so I believe this, okay?
I mean, look at that
I'm going,
structure,
this is
though.
BBC, I'm going to put us on 2 cameras so
Okay.
you guys can watch what I'm doing here. So that's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
So that's like an actual sculpture and this scuba divers. Now look at the size of the sculpture versus the human.
I mean, and look at how in detail it is still. The nose and the mouth and everything.
This is off history. Where's this one? Oh, wow.
Wow. That's Egyptian. That looks Egyptian.
That does look very Egyptian to me.
Wow.
But with all these fish.
So maybe Egypt did have a part in it. You never know. if it started from an Egyptian guy, you know, where the story came from.
Right.
Wow.
Wow. See, now that would be cool to see. But it's almost like the fish just sort of took it over or something like that.
It really did.
Oh, there's someone swimming down there. Okay, girl, go get a better day job. Jeez. Chanel, what do you think?
Wow.
I mean, it would be awesome to see in person.
Right.
Like, that would be...
Oh, that's cool.
I don't
a
think that's
dream.
real. That's definitely not real. That one's not real.
Wow.
Hmm.
Wow. What's that one over there? Oh, that's not real.
I mean, you have to be careful. Some of these definitely... That's from China, like the little graveyard they have underneath.
Wow.
Interesting.
Oh, yeah.
So, another part I found, it says, since the 19th century, there has been a renewed interest in linking Plato's Atlantis to historical locations.
Mm-hmm.
Most commonly, the Greek island of Santorini, which was destroyed by a volcanic eruption around 1600 BC.
Wow.
So, another island, Greek island, no?
So I wonder if there's got to be theories too if they think Atlantis is going to eventually rise. I've heard people say that before. Do you think that could happen?
I mean, that'd be cool. I want to see
As the
it.
rest of the world is sinking,
I mean,
Atlantis comes up.
You know
right?
what? I want to live on Atlantis. I'll crochet things for them.
Oh my gosh!
I'll crochet you a fin.
Crochet mermaid tail blankets.
I can.
Oh my god!
Should make one. I will. Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Trojan War. They talk about the Trojan War.
I did watch a video that some people speculate that Antarctica is Atlantis or was.
I don't know about that, but I do think that weird narwhal thing
Antarctica
is
is
on there.
interesting because it's like it has areas where
It's never been explored.
right,
I know.
and people aren't allowed to trespass.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of
You know why though, right?
the theories that I've read is
I know why.
that
There's Transformers buried there.
yeah.
Don't you remember
For
the
sure.
Transformers that were buried
I
there?
never saw.
That's where Bumblebee came from.
Well,
I never saw
You didn't
those
see
movies.
Transformers?
and also
She's
Look,
cat.
okay.
She had never seen
I
Catfish
crochet
till
in my
the other
corner.
day. Okay, I was
and
concerned about
that's
that.
my life.
I crochet
So-
in my corner. Oh my gosh. Atlanteans.
Let me see here. Tales of God Love. We already talked about that. Self-sufficient rich city. Oh. Self-sufficient and rich city. The fertile and beautiful city of Atlantis, where half god and half human beings lived, is believed to have been a self-sufficient region where people grew their own food and reared animals.
And weird animals?
Reared.
Oh, reared.
Farmers in the city used to grow the crops in the fertile plains on the outskirts with the help of well-maintained irrigation system. They also built beautiful buildings and other architectures from materials like black and red stone, but they also had access to rare metals and even brass.
I do find it interesting that there's some things that come up saying that the Atlanteans were barbaric.
Yeah, that's, yep.
And I'm wondering, like, I know this is going to sound gross, but you do think about colonies that have been, like, isolated on, like, islands. You hear about cannibalism. Maybe that was what considered them barbaric. I mean, let's throw it out there. You know what I mean? Like, we don't know anything about them, which is just weird to me. But it just probably depends on I mean, if it sunk there, the scripture was lost too. You know what I mean?
there's
So
also
that's what's so odd to me about this. Seriously, is that how it sunk and everything is still in position.
right.
That's weird to me.
It
Isn't to
literally
you?
just fell.
Yeah.
I guess maybe that's Hollywood getting in my head
Yeah.
because when you see something fall,
But
like,
it is
explodes.
strange that it literally is all in just one area.
Just sunk.
You know?
Well, and then it makes you wonder how fast did it sink? Are we talking like Titanic, where it went down in 15 minutes? Or are we talking about like it took like 6 weeks and suddenly we were like 6 feet under?
Oh my god.
But you do wonder that, right? Like, of course, there's no way to measure it at the time because some science didn't exist, you know?
Or what if there was a land, but it is possible that the earth could have shifted. You know
Right.
what I mean? Let's say there was a section of land that cracked and fell because the earth is constantly changing,
Right.
moving. Plates are constantly shifting.
Yep,
So
yep.
maybe it could have been something like that. But it is just very strange that, because it based off of the photos underwater, it doesn't look like there's a lot of like ground. Like it literally just looks like a building just fell and it hit the sand.
I know. But how
Which
did
is
it stay in
weird.
structure?
And it's literally just there.
Right.
Magic.
Magic.
From the
Never
mermaids.
know, it's the mermaids. Well, I think that's it. I think that's
Yeah,
good.
I think that's good.
You
I
can
mean,
go down a rabbit hole though for a long time with this, you know. So what are you taking away from Atlantis?
I think it could still exist.
Right.
I think it could still exist. Yeah.
I think it does.
I think it's real.
Yeah.
I would just like to see it without going underwater.
With your pink
Just
floaties.
bring it back up.
I'm just gonna wait till it rises.
Okay. Then we'll ask some questions.
Because I can't do it. You know what I mean? First of all, you have to
True.
get on a boat to get there, and that's not gonna happen.
Especially on an ocean.
I'm not even gonna know.
Imagine like a whale, just like,
no. I can't imagine
my
that.
gosh, giant killer whale. Just like, hey.
No. Did you ever see Life of Pi?
Yes, I actually did see that.
Okay, I went with one of my friends to see that when it came out in 3D. And there's so much underwater scenes, and I was like, thought I was having a seizure.
Oh my god.
That's why I won't get on a boat.
Okay.
Like, no.
No, don't
Don't
do that.
do it.
Don't do that.
But yeah, I do think it could be. I love the whole like different mermaid thing. love
I
that.
find it really fascinating. I just find the whole thing really fascinating.
I do too. I just think that it's unfortunately always going to be in one of those topics of like,
There's so many routes.
there are so
Yeah.
many routes because you don't know about it, so you have to like wonder like all these different things. And I do believe Plato.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do you?
I do.
Do you?
I do.
Yeah.
It was too extensively into detail. I mean, you can have a generic story that kind of tells you the plot and the ending. Woo,
Well,
God,
and he
keep
claimed he
moving.
knew where it was, and then now researchers have found
I've
it.
actually
What
found
if it's
things.
the type of thing where, like, because he knew where it was,
Mhm.
that was, like, the correct place, and then somebody came along that had the ability to hide it somehow,
Mm-hmm.
if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think we just haven't had the technology till recently to not only like scuba gear and finding it that way, but like literally they've been using like land scans,
Mm-hmm.
and they have these new land scans. I think Josh Gates has used them actually on Destination, or no, that's not the right one. What is it?
Oh
Destination.
my gosh, what is
Oh,
it?
wow. What is it?
I know. I was gonna call it Destination Fear, but that's
Is it
Dakota's show.
Destination America?
No,
No.
that's another show.
That's
That's a network. But anyway,
is it?
they take like a drone thing or like a helicopter and they scan the land, and however.
Destination Truth.
There you go.
Destination Truth.
And
yeah.
they can see like where the depth is, you know what I mean, which is where they've clearly gotten these pictures from,
Mm-hmm.
where we've never had that technology till now. So imagine what happens if we keep moving forward with technology and like what's going to happen. But I assume it's going to end up being like the Titanic. I know I've heard stories of people like, oh, can we as humans try to like bring the island up? Or
Right.
can we bring the Titanic ship up? And the answer is no, it'll literally fall apart. It'll
Mhm.
literally, like, the Titanic is going to be down there forever. It's literally, like, slowly disappearing from algae.
Right.
And it's, like, weak because it's been under the water, salt
For so
water, for
long,
100
yeah.
years. So it does make you wonder, though, the stone, whatever they used, which I'm assuming is probably semi-precious or precious stone or crystals, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But it's down
still
there.
structured.
It's still down there. We should be building shit like that now. Like literally, we should be
should.
taking some notes from everybody
really
because
should,
it's
honestly.
like, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, well, what do we think? Is that it?
Very good.
We're good?
Next Saturday, we're actually talking about the Bridgewater Triangle.
Which one's that?
That is the triangle that's in Massachusetts.
Oh, you've
That's
been to this one.
claimed. It's in, yeah, it's very strange and it's very like much posted and they have a bunch of history on it. But it's very similar to the Bermuda Triangle. It's just on
Wow.
a smaller scale.
Oh, I'm
And
excited.
the same things going on as Bermuda, people disappearing.
And you've had weird stuff happen there.
Mm-hmm.
remember that
Massachusetts
story.
is the hot spot.
Oh
Mm-hmm.
my gosh. Ley lines, though. There's a lot of ley lines in that area. I've
Tons.
looked because that's where there's a spot in New England that's almost like a triangle.
Mm-hmm.
And it's where they get a ton of like abductions.
Mm-hmm. We stay away from that triangle, okay, boo? Don't go near that triangle.
I'm not going to be abducted.
Mm-mm.
Like, I'm not.
We don't have time.
No.
We don't have
I
time for
really,
that.
I really don't.
We don't. We don't.
This is one person you just, I would annoy you. Well, we all would. Well,
Yeah,
Chanel
we
would be
would.
like,
Chanel will probably put you in a jar.
yeah, she
So
would.
just don't. Just don't.
Just don't
Don't
mess
adopt
with
me.
Chanel. Just everybody leave
Period.
Shanae Nail
Don't
out of
mess
this.
with Shanae Nay. Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh. And then Monday, we are doing Haunted Huddle.
Monday's Dead Time.
On Monday's Dead Time.
And we're talking about some paranormal current events. I have
I
some
think
more
we
tea.
should, you know what, I think we should do that for a little bit, but I think we should watch a Screaming Room episode for like an extra
Sure.
booze and
Booze and
reviews on Monday.
Sure.
Because
Yeah.
we want to talk about Ghost Adventure Screaming Room.
We do. Then Wednesdays, Booze and Reviews will be on Ghost Nation, about Ghost Nation.
Oh, Ghost Nation.
Yeah.
Okay, we watched that
So.
one, didn't we?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can't remember which one it was. Okay.
Did you swallow it again? Did you swallow it? Every time she makes that sound,
wait a second.
she swallows the
Wait a
cough
second.
drop.
By the way, I still have pneumonia, in case anyone's wondering, okay? I have become one with the pneumonia, okay?
She is the pneumonia.
Ugh, I
Okay,
still have it, and I
literally.
literally, if I don't have a cough drop in, I'm just hacking. So it's going on 5 months. I should probably go to the doctor. You know what I mean? Like,
Probably.
it's probably a good idea.
But you know what? You're living,
I'm
so
busy.
it's fine.
a lot going on. You know what I mean?
God.
So anyway, let's not choke on that again.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, her living here, I've done it so many times. She'll catch me out of the corner eye. She'll be like, "Did you choke?" I'm like, no, it didn't happen. You didn't see that. Oh my gosh.
I can't.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in tonight. So we will see you Monday 7. Dead time for a little bit. You have more tea. You always have tea.
You know, Chip just keeps giving it to me, so it's fine.
Painful.
It's gonna be good.
Chanel, where's your jar? Get your
Yeah.
jars ready.
It's fine.
Thank you guys so much. Have an awesome weekend. We're happy to be back from the holidays. And we will see you on Monday. And as always, we will catch you guys.
Next time.
Bye, guys. Make sure you follow us on social media. Talk to you guys soon.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're all invited to go fucking mental on this motherfucking drop. The countdown has just begun.